Good morning, friends. It is March 1st, start of spring. And I wanted to make a quick video to talk to you about failure and to describe to you a dietary failure that I have, that many of you go through, and how I'm dealing with it, but how I caught it. So my last video, I got down to 182 pounds. Well, guess what? Somehow your buddy managed to get back up to 186 pounds. And yet, it doesn't happen overnight. I kind of saw it happening, and I assumed it was part of the normal ebb and flow, like you retain water at certain points. But I gotta tell you, a few things made me key in on it, and I started to feel fatter. I put on weight in the chest, the man titties area, and I'd gotten that really down to where I could feel nothing between my arms. And trust me, I'm very ashamed to say this and put this on YouTube. But I started feeling the weight. I started feeling something here. And I started saying, how could that be? So sure enough, it's like 2 days and at 186. So it's not like a fluke or retaining water or constipation or whatever. It's weight. And now that I thought about it, I can see it in my chest area. I can feel it. It jiggles when I move around, and you know, it's embarrassing. I'm very upset at myself. And actually, now that I think about it, I don't think I saw it in my gut, but I had to go to a wedding, and when I went to get measured, I tried on the slacks, and a week later when I picked it up, they were tight. And I thought they made a mistake, but they didn't pick up the waist. They actually just took up the length. So this happened in the space of about 2 weeks, and that's a pretty big gain. And yes, I felt a lot of despair and like giving up and down on myself, but I said, look, there has to be an explanation. Look back and see what's wrong. So I'm going to tell you my thought process. First, how I psychologically got myself to get back on track, what I did from a data standpoint, and what I'm going to do. So, you know, I talk about a book called Atomic Habits, and you have to have these little habits to catch yourself when you're falling and to steer you back on track, to motivate you. So I realized first of all, I had to accept to myself, you're gaining weight. All that progress you made that you told people that you make videos about, well, now you got to eat it because you just bumped back up, right? And in a bad way. You know, it wasn't 3 pounds and 4 pounds spread everywhere. It's concentrated. And I said, okay, you stumbled, but you made a lot of progress. So you knew what you were doing. So try to figure out what went wrong, and then let's try to get back on track. So I put myself on a task. And it's a mystery. It's a mystery that involves checking your behavior, but also checking your data. Now, remember, my data is I track my calories. So that's the only data bank I have. My workout regimen is the same, right? And this is calories in, calories out. So clearly, I told myself, no, I'm eating the same. I'm looking, and I'm having this thing on maintain my weight. Right, I'm just using maintain, but I said, well, I think you think that you didn't, but I think you need to find a way of checking back. Now, the human mind recall is very bad. People like to go by eyewitness testimony, what somebody says, but in science, recall and human recall is the most useless tool for collecting evidence because of recall bias. Because the human brain puts a spin on anything that goes in your eyes or ears, gets processed by the brain, puts its own spin on it, just like the media, and then records it. And then when you put out the information, it has a spin, right? So definitely I knew I had to do that. So now I want to say there's a few events that happened over the last few weeks. So I started training for 200-meter sprints, which means on my sprint days, instead of running 60, maybe 80 meters, I'm running 100, 120 meters on a curve. I also upped the volume of the working set sprints to 4 runs, so I'm running at least 400 meters on Monday, Thursday, but these are very high-speed runs, 100, 120 meters. And these represent the end of my tank. So when I would run 60 or 80, I felt good at the end. I had gas, you know? But at the 100 on the curve, I'm going up to the 120 meter mark, 130, I was flat out. Like my body had nothing and I failed. Like I couldn't make it to the 150. So this is the very end of my tank, you know, the end of my metabolic tank. You know, my mitochondria have nothing left. So I knew I would be eating more and I struggled. So if you've watched my videos, you see I was doing high carb, low fat before, and I was taking a lot of dextrose and simple carbs. I added the dextrose in on Mondays and Thursdays and a banana. So that was about 40 grams of carbs there. So I had planned on only eating on those 2 days a little more. Well, what started happening was I think I was end up eating more because when you do sprints or high-speed sprints and you up your volume, the post-oxygen consumption goes up and probably lasts for another day or two. So you go to sleep, you wake up, you're hungry, you know? So, so what I discovered, so I use MacroFactor. So MacroFactor has a good feature, as probably does a lot of the other great ones like Carbon or whatever, where you can go back a week, a month, and 3 months. Now, when I was making my rapid drop down from 201 to 190, and then I got to 182, I did the 1 week, 1 month, and 3 month snapshot, and they were all the same. I was at 2,000 calories. My total carbohydrate was 178 with about 15 to 20 grams of fiber. And the fat was about 90 grams. So right there, I said, wow, this is a good place for me to be. Having monitored my macros and my weight for like the past 10 years, I've struggled to get to this point. The only downside is the protein was about 130 something grams. But I wasn't suffering from it. So I said, I'll just leave it. Because as you recall, I told myself, don't try to chase a protein goal. Like if you're not hungry, don't eat, right? Because you try to chase protein goal, you might end up eating a meal which has carbs and fats, and your carbs go up. And that's where I came to the beef, fatty meats like ribeye and ground meat as my proteins, because those would hold me for a long time. So what do you think happened? My 1 week snapshot for my diet had me up to 2,400 calories. Now the carbs, sorry, my nose is itchy. The carbs only went up by 30 grams to 200 grams. But the protein went up to 170 something grams. Now you're probably going to say, Rishi, that's good. You're getting a lot of protein. But the thing with increasing protein when you're doing weight loss or training is it's lean protein you got to increase. With that protein probably came with extra meals, like a chicken salad or something. So the fat went up, as did the carbohydrates. Now, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. 1 gram of carbohydrate is 4 calories. So if you increase your carbs and your fats, that's a combined caloric energy increase that I didn't need. I might have needed 30 grams of carbohydrates alone, which is just a 120 calorie bump. So what happened was I just wasn't eating more lean protein. I had extra meals, which means I was hungrier. So that showed me, I looked at it and I said, you did this to yourself. This is what caused it. It's impossible to pick this up when you're eating and recording your food daily because the increases aren't huge. And you don't really know how much you ate till the end of the day or you look back. And it's too slow for your mind to record. But the diet, this is why it's good. People who are resistant, they feel it's very bad to track your food, but at this age, it's good to track it because you can go back and see. You know, I know people who do intermittent fasting and they depend on that. And it's like, well, I do intermittent fasting. I'm like, so you're kind of dependent on your body to not go overboard in the 8-hour window you're doing, which your body you can do. So it's data. There's no other way to track it. I did the 1 month snapshot and that was up as well, right? I think to maybe 2,300 or 2,400, maybe 2,200. But the 3 month snapshot stayed as 2,000 calories, 170 something grams of carbs, about 90 grams of fat. So that tells me that the 3-month snapshot average is still the same as when I dropped down to 182, but the 1 month isn't. So all of this weight, what caused this weight gain is the last 4 weeks of eating, right? Now, I did pat myself on the back and say, you made it through the holidays with a weight loss. You lost weight over the holidays. You recently started this back. There's no celebration going on. The only thing you did was you increased your workout volume. So, what caused this? What caused this was the increased workout demands of higher speed sprinting, higher distance sprinting, did create more hunger. And I knew I'd have to increase my calories. And my plan was just to increase the dextrose or a banana before I ate. But what ended up happening, which hit my blind side, is when I came back, my post-workout meals, I was hungry throughout the day. And I was feeding myself the same combination of meals, nothing too big, but in the long run, it crept up to 2,400. Now remember, I don't have a calorie limit. I'm just having the macro factor keep my weight the same. So I use that because if my activity level goes up and you need calories, give it as long as your weight's not going up. But my weight went up. So I haven't entered the new weight in the software yet, so I'm sure it's going to cut it back down. But that's how I caught it. So long story short, I upped my workout volume. And it inadvertently, I should give it a little bit more carbohydrate, probably complex. Just on those days, I ended up eating because sprint workouts and high explosive workouts keep you hungry. It's good it's hungry because your metabolism is burning, but it was tough for me to control it. Now I see it. Today, Saturday, I told myself, you see the 3-month snapshot. You need to go back to those macros. So what I learned is at 2,000 calories with this amount of carb, fat, and protein, that is your inflection point. At that point, you're going to continue in a deficit or stay lean. But the minute you go back up, your body puts it on. So it's a very important thing for me to know at this point because it tells me at this activity level, if you're doing 2,000 calories, 220, 122 maybe, but you're keeping the carbs at 177, the fat at 90, you can get up the protein as much as you want. You're not going to gain, right? And if anything, you're able to keep going in a deficit from that point. So it's good for me to know. So at this point, what I'm going to do now is go back to that. But I had been eating, I like my ribeye, but I swapped out the ground beef for chicken and shrimp. And I told myself, well, one dietary thing you got to do is go back to the ground beef for lunch and to have as your meals because that keeps you full quite long. So on the grocery list, yes, I'm going to go back to my morning steak, but I'm going to pick up my ground beef and have it cooked ready to go. I am going to still have chicken or shrimp because I like to have red meat in the morning, a mixture at lunch, I realize, and at dinner, I kind of like the chicken and shrimp. Lighter protein, but I crave that. And that makes me go to sleep and wake up hungry for my ribeye. So I think that's going to be my thing. I'm going to go back to my 3 big meals and only fruit in between because what was happening was I was having lunch still hungry and 1 or 2 hours after when I would have a snack, I'd have to have a meal again. So again, insulin hit post-workout, 2 hours, another insulin hit, whereas I would just go all the way to 6 or 7 for lunch. So yes, I need to go back to more satiating meals first. And I think for the sprint days, I'll just give myself an extra banana and use electrolytes. So just want to put this out there because everybody puts out a video as to how they lost weight, but doesn't tell you how to deal with the barriers. So I'm here to tell you I hit a failure point, and not only did I stall, but I bounced back up. Most people get discouraged here. Don't get discouraged. Just stop. Psychologically stop yourself. Pat yourself on the back. Reach out to your friends to give you support. And mentally get yourself in a place where you're like, I accept I made a mistake, but I'm going to fix it because I've made all this progress. So once your mind has accepted the emotions of I messed up, but I'm going to fix this. Once you put yourself on that path that I'm going to solve this, you're good. Now go to your tools, go to your history, go to what you should be doing, compare it to what you did honestly, and make a plan for a correction. Whether you're going to go back to what you were doing, whether you're going to, maybe, as I said, your situation changed. So my workout level is increased. So maybe I need to go back to my original plan, but only tweak it in one place one day and stay strict all the other days, right? And then apply it. So that's how I think you should deal with it. And this is another reminder of why you need to have data. You need to be tracking your food religiously. You need to track your weight and your body fat and trend it. And the software does this for you. And my scale has a app that you can enter that. But there's tools available. Track those things. The more things you have constant, the easier. If you're working out every day and your workout is the same, you don't have to worry about non-workout days, right? If you're tracking your food, you can go check it. And the less variability in your food, the easier. Like I don't eat out as much. So when I look at my food log, I know it's pretty much most of the days are precise. Accurate. We're weighing stuff, using a calorie as a measure. Those are not, I can't say they're 100% accurate, but it's precise. I'm eating ribeye every day, ground beef every day, so the measurements are the same all the time. Whereas if I were eating out 4 days a week, I'd have to consider that is a wild card. So, if you haven't done so, I'm telling you, get a weight loss app, a calorie app, start tracking your food and your weight, because that's going to show you what worked. And, this sticking point I was at, that's what mentally helped me, because I had this to go back to say, this worked. This is where you went wrong. Let's go back and continue that. So that's the plan. We'll see if I get back to 183, even 182. But I just want to put it out there for you guys who hit your sticking points, and don't fear, just put a similar path into action and get back on track.